Hey guys, I'm going to read part one of our new book, The Rag and Bone Shop. And I'll be reading this, not giving you too much context, because this will be the first time you're reading it, as it is I'm reading it. Let's dive right in. I'll read part one. Hopefully you guys have gone to school to get the book. You get it, hardcover. Feeling better? I guess so. My headache is gone. Is there a connection? Well, maybe. They say confession's good for the soul, but I don't know if it eliminates headaches. Am I supposed to say I'm sorry now? The fact that you confessed indicates a degree of sorrow. Is that enough? That's up to you, Carl. What you did can't be erased, of course. I know. They're dead. Gone. Can't bring them back. But can the sin be erased? I can't tell you that. I'm not a priest. But I confessed to you. Yes, but I can't give you absolution. Forgiveness of your sins. Pause. Well, are the police coming? They're waiting outside. And Trent shut off the tape player and leaned back in the chair and kneaded the flesh above his eyebrows. In the silence of the office, he still heard Carl Seaton's voice, all cunning gone, penitent, full of regret. Trent sat across from him for 4 hours under the harsh light of a 100-watt ceiling bulb. In the small, cluttered office, the relentless questions and answers, the evasions and rationalizations, the eventual admission, not the same as a confession, and finally, the confession itself. The Trent magic touch at work, as a newspaper headline had once proclaimed. But Trent felt no particular magic now, no thrill of accomplishment. Too many confessions? Like Carl Seaton's, having induced Carl to confess. That old Trent magic has you in its spell. Trent had to listen to the recitation of his cold-blooded, deliberate murder of 3 people. The victims were a 35-year-old woman, her 37-year-old husband, and their 10-year-old son, although Carl hadn't known their ages at the time. 6 months ago, in the milky whiteness of a winter dawn, Carl Seaton had broken into the modest 2-story home of Aaron and Muriel Stone to steal the small gun collection in the cellar. He admitted that he knew nothing about guns except the pleasure of holding them in his hands and the sense of power they gave him. Carl Seaton broke a cellar window, not worried about the noise of his intrusion, and having learned that the family was away on vacation and that there was no alarm system. He was disappointed to find that there were only 3 small guns in the so-called collection. He was surprised to find that the guns were loaded. He then decided to search the house. Thought he might find something of value, although he knew nothing about fencing stolen goods. He heard a noise from the 2nd floor, padded towards the stairs, his sneakers noiseless in the carpeted hallway. Upstairs he entered a bedroom and was surprised to see a man and a woman asleep in the bed. The woman slightly curled up, bedclothes thrown off, beautiful eyelashes, thick and curved, the husband flat on his back, mouth open, snoring gently. Carl became conscious of the gun in his hand and felt suddenly the power of his position. What it must feel like to be God, looking down at them, so helpless and defenseless. It occurred to him that he could do anything he wanted with them. They were at his mercy. He wondered what the woman would look like without her blue nightgown on. He had never seen an actual naked woman, only in magazines, movies, and videos. But it was too much of a bother now to think about that. He didn't want to spoil this nice feeling, just standing there, knowing he was in charge. He raised the gun and shot them. First the man. The bullet exploded through the thin blanket, small shreds of green cloth filling the air like rain. The noise of the shot not as loud as he had imagined it would be. As the woman leaped awake, her eyes flying open, he shot her in the mouth, marveled at the gush of blood and the way her eyes became fixed and frozen in shock. A mighty sneeze shook his body, the smell of gunpowder heavy in the air. He wondered, was there anybody else in the house who might have heard the shots? He went into the hallway, opened a door at the far end, saw a boy sleeping in a bed and shaped almost like a boat, hair in neat bangs on his forehead. The boy's eyelids fluttered. Carl wondered whether he should shoot him or not, then decided that the boy would be better off if he did. Terrible thing to wake up and find your mother and father dead, murdered. Carl shot the boy as an act of kindness, nodding, feeling good about it, generous. Carl Seaton had confessed his acts of murder, almost eagerly, glad to provide the details that would lead to his own doom, his voice buoyant with relief, which was often the case with those who finally acknowledged their acts. Trent felt only contempt for Carl Seaton, although he had simulated sympathy and compassion during the interrogation. Acting was only another facet of interrogating subjects. If he felt any compassion at the moment, it was for Carl Seaton's parents. Carl was 17 years old. Trent's jaw began to ache. He never got headaches, instead, this streak of pain running along his jaw. Ridiculous, but there it was. It usually happened after an interrogation, like a punishment he had to endure. But why a punishment? I'm only doing my job. That's the trouble, Lottie had claimed. And now he admitted why Carl Seaton's confession, another notch in his belt, had failed to provide the usual surge of triumph. There was no Lottie in his life now to tell about it, even though he knew she had stopped listening at the end. Still, Lottie had always been there for him, even if he hadn't always been there for her. The pain in his jaw increased, and he tried yawning to provide some relief. He resisted taking the painkillers in his desk drawer. Maybe I deserve some pain, he thought, thinking of Lottie. He put away the cassette and tape player, cleaned up his desk, checked tomorrow's appointments. Time to go home. Home to the empty house, where Lottie was only a forlorn ghost, but there was no place else to go. End of part 1.